My boyfriend is 28 and doesn't know how to have sex. He doesn't know how to penetrate or thrust. When I decided to date someone who had never been in a relationship or experienced intimacy, I thought it would be a smooth journey. I believed things would unfold naturally over time. But now, 3 months in, I see he hasn't improved much. I'm his first and only partner. He has never even kissed anyone before me. I have 2 kids, so I can't relate to starting this journey so late. I became a mom at 20. I took his virginity, and while we manage to have penetrative sex, he often loses his erection. I have a preference for giving oral pleasure, and he can finish that way, but I worry he's relying on it to avoid trying penetrative sex more often. He often suggests oral because he knows he can maintain his arousal that way. He refuses to go down on me, saying he doesn't like the smell. When I asked him to smell my fingers after I touched myself, he wouldn't even try. When we do have penetrative sex, he doesn't thrust properly. He wiggles around instead, and despite my attempts to guide him, he often goes soft. He struggles to find the right spot, and if he slips out, he can't seem to locate his way back in. I really want to make this work because he's a genuinely sweet person, but I didn't expect so many challenges in our intimate life. I've been with someone who was also a virgin before, and he figured things out much more easily. It makes me wonder if there's something deeper going on. I don't want to end things over intimacy when everything else in our relationship is great. He grew up with very strict parents and was sheltered his entire life. He's a doctor, making a good income, but he lacks social skills outside of his work. He's shy and reserved, sometimes even stuttering when he speaks. I relate to his shyness, but my past was quite different. I was a wild child who experimented with things at a young age and became a mom early on. He's straight edge and has never tried anything like alcohol or drugs, only sipping on my drinks occasionally. I want this to work because he truly cares for me, and I care for him too. I didn't take his virginity just to walk away, which makes me feel a bit foolish for trying. I have my own struggles, including mental health issues, and I'm working on getting back into therapy. I tend to give people chances and look for the good in them because I faced abandonment in my life. I don't want to treat others the way I've been treated. Despite the challenges, he has made me feel pleasure before and genuinely wants to please me. He's been buying toys for me to use during our intimate moments when he struggles, but I still crave the real experience. I've never owned sex toys myself. I've always relied on my hands. He's not selfish. He's just confused about how to navigate this. He means well, and I plan to talk to him about how his comments regarding my natural scent affect me. He once suggested that semen is somehow less unpleasant than vaginal fluid, and I should have addressed that immediately. It's not okay to speak to anyone that way, and he needs to understand that. I apologize for the lengthy message. I'm just feeling overwhelmed right now. I'll see where this goes in the long run. For now, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Let's escalate directly to the head of HR, or how I stopped being apathetic and actually gave a care about my job. For once. Part 1. This all happened yesterday, and it was quite a day. I received an email that morning with a concerning report about one of my techs. The head of HR informed me that one of my team members had allegedly violated IT data and security policies. They had already submitted termination paperwork to my boss, the head of IT. I was taken aback. I told a colleague to keep this under wraps while I discussed it with my boss. The conversation didn't take long, as I had already flagged the incident myself. After reviewing the call logs, I realized how misguided the situation was. The user had requested access to a drive that was already mapped to another. The tech explained this, but the user seemed frustrated and started talking to coworkers, not realizing I could hear everything. When the tech offered to map the drive, the user insisted on her authority, but the tech calmly pointed out that she wasn't in his management chain. The user became increasingly agitated, claiming it was a huge violation, when in fact it wasn't. The tech even demonstrated that he could access her desktop, which only escalated her panic. After hanging up, she decided to report him. I quickly emailed the head of HR, clarifying that the fault lay entirely with the user. Her misunderstanding of basic server technology led to her believing she had been breached. I canceled the termination order and the emergency maintenance ticket she had submitted. I reminded HR that any concerns about my team should come through me, and that there's a proper process for termination that had been overlooked. I hoped I wouldn't have to remind them again. A couple of hours later, I received an email from the executive vice president of IT. He apologized for the head of HR's actions and assured me that the tech would not face any punishment as he had listened to the call himself. Shortly after, I was informed that my annual employee review was being moved up to the next day by the head of HR. Bumble BFF date gone wrong. Hi everyone, I want to share a story that happened a little over a year ago, reminding everyone to be cautious when meeting strangers online. I'm a 24-year-old woman who moved across the country for the first time. I didn't know anyone in my new city, and my job didn't offer many opportunities to meet people. So, I downloaded Bumble BFF to make some friends. My first meetup went surprisingly well, so I decided to give it another shot and met a girl I'll call Amber, who was 22. Amber and I chatted for a few days before deciding to meet for brunch at a coffee shop. As she approached, I noticed she didn't quite look like her photos. It wasn't a huge difference, but enough to catch my attention. I brushed it off since it wasn't a real date, but it was my first red flag. Almost immediately, she began sharing some heavy personal stories. She mentioned that she didn't drive and had 2 young children. I struggled to get a word in, and as she dominated the conversation, I started thinking about how to politely leave. But since she didn't drive, I felt guilty about leaving her alone. Eventually, I told her I needed to use the restroom. She offered to walk with me, and we made our way across the outdoor mall to the restroom. While I was in the stall, I suddenly heard a child call out, "Mommy." When I opened the door, I was surprised to see her holding a toddler. I thought, where did this child come from? She seemed just as startled as I was. After introducing her child, who then hissed at me, I washed my hands and exited the bathroom. There, I saw a man with a stroller. Amber introduced him as her boyfriend, and he didn't seem very friendly. She encouraged me to say hello to the baby in the stroller. Hesitantly, I pulled back the cover, and the baby started crying, making me feel even more uncomfortable. I thanked her for meeting up and watched as she and her boyfriend walked off to their car. I knew she didn't drive, so I assumed her partner had brought her. But she never mentioned they were waiting for us or how they ended up at the same restroom. After they left, I started walking back across the mall, stopping to grab a pretzel. While waiting in line, I called a close friend to share the strange experience. As I sat down, I noticed Amber's boyfriend standing in line behind me. I felt horribly embarrassed. Although I didn't plan to see Amber again, I never intended to hurt anyone's feelings. When our eyes met, I felt a mix of confusion and embarrassment, so I decided to leave without my pretzel and headed toward my car. As I walked, I glanced back and saw her partner deliberately following me. My mind raced with questions. If he had been waiting the whole time, why hadn't he gotten something to eat? How did he know where I was? Was he going to confront me about my phone call? Every time I looked over my shoulder, he was still there. I started running through the mall, telling my friend on the phone that if I didn't call her back in 5 minutes, she should contact my spouse and the police. I finally reached my car, but I could see him storming through the parking lot after me. I sped away as fast as I could, my heart pounding in my ears. Once I was halfway home, I called my friend to let her know I was okay. When I got home, I told my spouse about the encounter and decided to delete my Bumble BFF account, blocking Amber on Snapchat, the only other social media I had shared with her. The next day, she found me on Instagram, which I hadn't given her. She sent me a message saying, "Hey girlie, I had a great time at brunch. We should all hang out again soon." I blocked her on Instagram as well, and thankfully, I haven't heard from her since. I still wonder what their intentions were, but I'm grateful I didn't stick around to find out. IATA for not wanting to get rid of my cats just because my boyfriend's mom says so. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and my boyfriend, Cole, also 29, and I have been together for almost 3 years. We don't live together yet, but we've been eager to make that happen. Unfortunately, we've faced some challenges in finding a place to rent. We're trying to move closer to our hometown, where both our families live. However, it's been tough to find a rental due to a few reasons. I filed for bankruptcy with my ex, which still affects my credit. Plus, I have 2 cats and 3 dogs. I know that's a lot, but I'm an animal lover, and I didn't expect to be renting again after owning a home. Cole works for his dad's company and is paid in cash, which complicates things further. Currently, I rent a small house from a friend, but Cole is allergic to cats. He takes allergy medication when he visits on weekends. Recently, Cole asked his parents for help in buying a house for us. He would cover the costs, but they would need to co-sign. They started looking for houses without keeping him informed, which frustrated him. Eventually, they found a place everyone liked and put in an offer. A couple of weeks ago, we got into the house to start cleaning. It was a mess, and we were all there. Cole, his parents, and me. I suggested an accent wall, but his mom quickly dismissed the idea, insisting that she would make all the decisions. Then she said I couldn't bring my cats because of Cole's allergies and concerns about property damage. Cole and I had already discussed a plan. We intended to convert the basement into my gaming room, keeping the cats away from the main living space. But his mom was adamant, no cats allowed. Cole stood his ground, saying he would never ask me to get rid of my pets, as they've been part of my life for over 10 years. The situation got more complicated when I learned that the loan for the house was taken out against his parents' money. Although Cole made a down payment and would pay it back monthly, his name wouldn't be on the deed. His mom planned to leave the house to him in her will, but that could be decades away. I expressed my concerns about this arrangement. It didn't protect Cole, and it wouldn't allow him to make decisions about the house. I suggested a prenup if we ever got married, which I'd be happy to sign. After some tension, Cole spoke to his mom again, emphasizing that the house was meant for us to live in together. He pointed out that it didn't make sense for him to have no equity after paying it off. While he brought up valid points, she still refused to allow the cats. I'm at a loss. This house is a great opportunity for us, in a good school district, and it would finally let us live together. But I can't give up my cats without a real reason. I'm worried about the future if his mom continues to treat this house as her own. What if we upset her and she decides to kick us out? Cole has given her a month to compromise, or he'll move in with me, even if it means leaving his job. I'm seeking advice on how to help her see reason. Am I being unreasonable? I appreciate any insights you can share. Thank you. AITA for saying my cousin's intellectual disability is probably because of the incest. I'm sharing this story anonymously because I'm still mortified. Last Sunday, my parents hosted a family lunch, and my cousins and I were busy adding wedding dates from our invites to our calendars. While joking about how confusing our familial ties can be in our native language, my grandma chimed in, teasing me about being too Western. As I was enjoying the food, I asked my dad how the father of the bride in one of the invites was related to him. He said they were cousins, and I should have left it at that. But curiosity got the better of me, and I asked for more details. That's when I learned that my grandfather and grandmother are half-siblings. I grimaced and laughed uncomfortably, and my cousins joined in, making gagging noises as we pushed the invites away. Our parents tried to defend the situation, but the discomfort was palpable. In a moment of thoughtlessness, I asked my dad if he realized that his grandfather and his mother's grandfather were the same person. I added, "You know children born from incest have higher chances of intellectual disabilities, right?" My cousin chimed in, saying, "Explains why my brother has that," and I nodded in agreement. My cousin is nonverbal and has a mental disability, and I instantly regretted my words. We were both yelled at and sent home. I know it was wrong to say that, but we were just feeling more and more uncomfortable. Later, we apologized, but my uncle and aunt are still refusing to speak to us. I can't shake the feeling that I crossed a line. After some reflection, I understand that my cousin and I were both being insensitive. We talked to his parents about the incident, clarified that we weren't blaming them, and expressed our love for his brother. In the end, my uncle jokingly suggested that as a punishment, we should attend all the weddings we were invited to, since we often skip them. We're okay now, but I'm still grappling with the weight of my words. My horror story with an insane billionaire's son. In December of last year, I met Nick on Hinge. I thought he was incredibly handsome and attended a prestigious school for a D1 sport. Before we met, he seemed respectful and genuinely interested in getting to know me. The first time we hooked up was strange. He asked about my SAT scores, complimented my rosy cheeks, and even put a U-zin in my mouth while we were making out. He stole my lighter as an excuse to see me again. He also mentioned losing tens of thousands of dollars gambling in the past. My judgment was questionable, but I found him endearing, and he still seemed like a sweet guy. He lived in another city, so I saw him a few times over the next couple of months when he returned to our hometown. That's when the red flags began to appear. The third time we hung out, he asked me out on a date, but showed up 2.5 hours late. We went to Blaze Pizza, where I watched him devour an entire pizza while I sat there feeling awkward. Afterward, he confessed he was an alcoholic and had been in rehab during his freshman year of college. He shared a disturbing story about a scar he had, how he had harassed a woman in a gas station, and her boyfriend hit him. He retaliated and escaped on his bike, only to be pushed off by a passerby. He also had a minor meltdown when he noticed I was wearing a men's coat and had cut my hair shorter since we met. Eventually, we became exclusive. When I agreed to date him, he cried tears of joy and revealed he came from a billionaire family. We dated for 6 months, and I was exposed to a level of addiction and recklessness with money that was shocking. He would buy express Amtrak tickets at the last minute, spending hundreds of dollars each time, and racked up massive Uber bills on his family's account. His parents paid him $50 an hour to walk their dog, yet he was always broke. He was a demanding boyfriend, shady with other women, and struggled to accept no for an answer. He shared stories from his past, including trying meth after being offered it as a free sample, and losing over $20,000 to a con man at a casino. I thought he had changed, but 3 months into our relationship, he started gambling again. I had never witnessed a real addiction before. And it was mind-boggling. He spent every free moment at the casino, often staying all night. He began losing significant amounts of money, but his family was oblivious, even though he lived with them. He even implied he knew my bank account details, which made me change all my codes. Things took a turn when his father's alcoholism worsened, leading to his dad going to rehab. My boyfriend started drinking again, and within 2 weeks, broke up with me and slept with another woman. I discovered this months later when I found a selfie he took with her on the day he ended things with me. By the end of his relapse, he was drunk all the time and would call me, threatening me and flaunting his education. No one in his family realized he was drinking again, so I confided in his sister. Within 24 hours, they sent him back to rehab, the same place his father was in. But the rehab center only allowed one of them to stay, and his father kicked him out to a much lower quality facility. Eventually, my boyfriend got out of rehab and moved into a halfway house. I told him I didn't want to be with him anymore, but he left the halfway home and came straight to my house. A few weeks later, I learned about the other woman and started questioning a formal event he attended just before we started dating. When I finally ended things for good, after several attempts where he would cry and beg, he lost control. He threatened to email my private photos to my family and my job, demanded $1,000 in cash for our dates, and even claimed he would have me institutionalized. He was fixated on me attending his friend's engagement party with him, and when I blocked him everywhere, he messaged me through Spotify with more threats. He even hinted at putting a hidden camera in my room and accused me of having an STD. It was a wild ride I should have escaped much earlier, but it certainly makes for a gripping story. There were countless other entertaining aspects I didn't have room for, like him suing his school for failing 2 classes and his obsession with his younger brother's anatomy. I understand his crazy ex-girlfriend's behavior now. I've done so many horrible things and I can't live with myself. I'm a 20-year-old man and this is going to be a long rant filled with sensitive topics. If you're easily triggered, it might be best to skip this. I suspect I have OCD. While I don't have a diagnosis, many people have pointed out that my obsessive thinking aligns with it. The realization that I fit the disgusting male stereotype is destroying me because it clashes with my values. Let me explain how I came to this conclusion. I grew up in a neglectful household. My parents used drugs like heroin and cocaine right under our noses, often inviting their friends over who were also struggling with addiction. From a young age, I was encouraged to seek out sex and drugs. I was involved in inappropriate behavior when I was young, and while I won't go into details, I know my brother and a friend were victims. I hope my brother has forgotten, as he still acts normally around me. Around the same time, I was taken advantage of by adults online. I advertised myself as a curious child and willingly sent images to these adults, becoming addicted to the validation it brought me. This lasted for 3 years, and I know I hurt many people in the process. At 14, I got involved with my brother's group of friends who were heavily into drugs. There was a girl in the group who was always with a boy my age, and her mother supplied us with alcohol. I desperately wanted to fit in, hating that I was just a geek who liked video games. Thankfully, I never had sex during that time, but I did share my first kiss with that girl. By 16, I tried to straighten myself out, burying my past as deep as I could. However, I developed what I believe is POCD. I can't be around underage people without getting flashbacks. Burying everything worked for a while, but when I went to college, I dropped out and isolated myself in my room. During this time, I grew incredibly close to my best friend. But I've been so inappropriate towards her, making creepy comments and discussing sexual topics. I know it's wrong, and even though she says I'm overreacting, I can't accept that. I feel disgusting, especially since I'm convinced I may have tried to touch her inappropriately at one point. I can't prove that I did, but I can't prove that I didn't either. The memory is so foggy, and it drives me crazy not knowing for sure. She sees me as a great person, unable to see myself the way she does. She insists that even if I've been a creep, my good qualities outweigh it. She's honest about her feelings, kind, and always checks on me. She even talks about wanting me to move in with her to help me escape my toxic home and heal. But I don't trust myself anymore. I thought I was being normal around her for so long. A few months ago, I tried to ghost her because I couldn't handle the guilt. She rallied my friends for a wellness check on me, the one who I feel I've wronged, checking in on me. I just want to be a good person. I've cried so many times in the past few months, including yesterday. The thought that I could have caused pain, and potentially more that I don't even remember, hurts deeply. I just want to be a good person. An update 2.5 years later. Inaida for wanting to spend time with my wife instead of babysitting my little sister. I recently celebrated my 5-year anniversary with my wife. We had planned a beautiful day, starting with a nice restaurant, followed by a hot air balloon ride, and ending with a relaxing time by the lake. I had even bought her flowers to make the day special. But then, just a day before our anniversary, I received a text from my mom asking me to babysit my little sister for a week while she and my dad visited my aunt, who had just been diagnosed with leukemia. I love my sister, even though there's an 18-year age gap between us. She has some challenges, but she's a wonderful kid. I debated saying yes, but I didn't want to juggle a child while trying to enjoy my anniversary with my wife. So I politely declined. I thought that would be the end of it. The next day, while we were at the restaurant, my phone started buzzing nonstop. It was filled with angry messages from my parents, calling me all sorts of names because they showed up at my house and found it empty. They were furious and began ignoring my messages. I was left wondering if I was in the wrong. In the comments, I clarified that I had to work during most of that week. I truly love my sister, but I felt overwhelmed by the situation. My parents had pulled similar stunts before, but I thought we had moved past that. As time went on, I decided to go low contact with my parents. This was a tough choice, but after reflecting on their behavior and seeking advice, I realized it was necessary for my well-being. When I spoke to them about my decision, they were not happy, and it was clear they didn't understand my perspective. My wife revealed that my parents never really accepted her, which was a shock to me. I had always thought they liked her, even if they weren't close. Now, I only communicate with them at family gatherings or when my sister wants to see me. I made sure my sister knew that I wasn't cutting her off, just stepping back from our parents. We also learned that she has level 1 autism, which has helped us understand her needs better. Tragically, my aunt passed away a little over a year ago as her condition worsened. But on a happier note, I'm now a proud father to a 3-month-old son. The pregnancy was unexpected, but brought joy during a difficult time. I don't plan on updating again unless something significant changes. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey.